What's going on, guys? Welcome to Rule the Waves 2 First Impressions. This is my first take on Rule the Waves. I did not play the original. I want to kind of point that out before we dive into this. This is my initial kind of foray into Rule the Waves, and let's just dive right into it, right into the pros and cons. So the first pro is it's a small installation file. It's only about 50 megabytes, and I know that's kind of like odd to put that as a positive thing. But since a lot of the games nowadays take 30, 50, 60 gigabytes, it's nice to see that you could still get a game at 50 megabytes and not take up 3/4 of your SSD or your hard drive. That's a really cool sight to see. Second pro that I have to put out is this is a statistics-focused game. It kind of reminds me of John Tiller games. There's a lot of information to ingest while you're playing the game. Basically every facet of a battleship, destroyer, cruiser, from like how fast it can move, the turrets, the angling speed, and the speed of the ship. There's just so much stuff that you can manipulate and just kind of go over in this game. So I really do like that because you can really dive right into bones of the game. Third thing is, I'm a big Civil War guy. And when I saw the Confederate States is in this game, I thought that was pretty cool. It's another nation that's in this game, and it kind of puts a hypothetical scenario that if they won the Civil War, what would happen if they were still involved in early 20th century naval warfare. I just thought it was kind of cool when you see the battleship Robert E. Lee. I thought that was kind of neat. So that was cool. The fourth pro that I have to put out there, you can design ships from the ground up, and there's so much that you could put down. You can design where the turrets are, what kind of turrets, the speed of the ship, the tonnage of the speed. I mean, there's just so much stuff you play with when you're designing your ship. So I thought that was really cool. It adds so many dimensions to this game because you can put a destroyer on steroids and just put it out there, or you can have a battleship that is light on armaments but has a ton of speed. There's so much stuff you can do. Another pro that I would have to put out there, it has an event system. It kind of reminds me of like Hearts of Iron, where while you're playing the game, events drop in and it kind of puts you on different paths that you can go down. So you can antagonize the United States if you're the Confederate States and kind of like poke and prod them until you kind of go to war. And there's so many other things that you can do. You can spy on other nations, try to get plans for their future naval vessels. So a lot of cool stuff that you can do in this event-driven system. One other thing I wanted to kind of point out is that in tactical combat, if you set a division, a group of ships, and you kind of point them in a direction of, like, let's say, scouting out, and they go too far from the main flagship, the AI actually assumes command and actually reverts that division back into the main task force. And it kind of comes in handy, especially if you accidentally, order a fleet or a division of your task force to go a certain way, and you kind of get wrapped up in a couple other things. And these guys are going east, and before you know it, they're by Bermuda. You don't have to worry about that because it's automatically preset for them to return back to the fleet. Another thing about tactical combat is if you have ships that are engaged in combat, and let's say one of your ships takes a heavy hit, you don't know where that ship is on the map, you can click it in the log and it'll actually center it in the main display, in the main map here. So I thought that was kind of cool. It's a neat little touch. Another pro that I have to put in there, I really like the sound effects. They're really cool. It kind of immersed me. I actually kind of felt like, hearing the ship kind of just bellow out turrets. I thought that was kind of cool. One of the last few pros I wanted to put out there is the game is very addictive. Honestly, after I was playing the game for a while, I was kind of like, all right, I have enough for this first impressions. So I could actually just stop playing this game, but I didn't. I just kept playing it because I wanted to knock out an enemy battleship or an enemy destroyer. I thought I had them in my crosshairs, and I couldn't put the game down. And that's a hallmark of a good game. And the last pro that I have to put out there is this game did what it intended to do. It made me feel like an admiral. It made me feel like I was controlling my naval fleet from the strategic side as well as the tactical side. When I was in a tactical battle, there was so much stuff going on. There were so many events coming in from this ship being attacked, this ship firing. I had to issue orders, and it was a lot of stuff going on. And I felt like I was actually in a driver's seat, like that admiral of that task force. So I thought that was kind of cool. Even though this game is not heavily graphical like a first-person shooter, it still immersed me into the game. Even with this kind of interface, it still accomplished that feat, which says a lot about this game. The cons, let's go right into it. So the cons, first one I would have to say is when I click end turn, there's no turn numbers. So when I click turn, it doesn't have like a notification like turn 1 or turn 2 or turn 3. When I click turn, a lot of times I'm wondering, did it enable the command? Did I actually click it? Did it came register that click? The only time you actually know that a turn's actually been passed is a notification pops up on the screen, or if you look on the other side of the actual screen, right next to the flag, you'll actually see the month or year pass. And you know, it would be really cool maybe if they put a turn notification as a pop-up, or maybe just move the month and year next to the turn icon. So that would have been really cool. The second con that I have is when I'm in the design screen and I'm kind of trying to design a ship, there's a couple options that I can put into the ship, but when I select it, it says tech is not discovered yet. And I'm wondering, like, well, why is it listed? You know, there's a lot of times where I'm designing the ship and there are so many options available. When I click on an option, it says this has not been discovered yet. And it's just kind of odd that it's listed there. I would assume that they wouldn't list anything until I discovered it, and then it would pop up in the design screen. It's just really odd. Another con that I have is I wish there was an easier way to move divisions in tactical combat. Currently, if you want to move a division in tactical combat, you have to select a division, click coordinates that you wanted them to move it to. It'll bring you back to the map where you select the area of the map you want it to go. Then it goes back to the main map where you set the speed, and then so on and so on. It basically becomes a click fest on just moving a division. I wish there was an easier way to doing it. Maybe if I click a division, right-clicking it, maybe a pop-up will come up, or just maybe just clicking on a division and just moving with my mouse where I want them to go. Something similar where I don't have to just have click after click and becomes basically a click fest. And the last comment that I have is the game requires a bit of a learning curve. It's not, if you think you're going to buy this game and hit the ground running, it's going to take a little bit more than that. You're going to have to invest time to kind of understand the game, the mechanics, how it works. It's not going to be like one of those other games where you're just going to basically buy it within 15 minutes. You're going to be, you know, mastering the game. That's not going to happen. Overall, guys, I did really enjoy this game. This is, I think, one of the best naval combat strategy games I've played. Honestly, when I was playing this, I kind of felt like this was a John Tiller strategy game on steroids, naval edition kind of thing. So I thought that was kind of, that's kind of like I felt while I was playing this game. The other thing I was also thinking when I was playing this game is if I ever stop by the U.S. Naval Academy, I feel if I walk into one of their computer labs that a class is actually playing this game, because this game is very realistic. It takes in so many factors into account into naval combat. And I understand this is an early 20th century naval combat game, but there's a lot of facets that still apply to naval combat, naval tactics today. So I still feel like if I ever walked into Naval Academy, I would see this game on a lot of those screens. So overall, guys, this game is $35. It's available on Windows, and if you want to get your hands on a really good naval combat strategy game, this is it. All right, guys, I will catch you guys in the next one. See you then.